As the latest cinematic incarnation of Superman prepares to do battle with Batman this weekend, we're remembering the Superman movies of yesteryear, specifically the installments where Christopher Reeve donned the red cape and matching underwear. Decades before Zack Snyder revived the story of the Man of Steel and began the dawning of justice, there was a simpler time known as the late 1970s. Superman the movie arrived as the first true superhero blockbuster, made people believe a man could fly, and kicked off a massive franchise that would grow to encompass Superman 2, Superman 3, and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. But lest we forget that no movie involving Superman has ever been perfect, in some cases extremely far from perfect, let's bring some levity to the overhyped proceedings and remember that super flicks can have some super flaws. So here, in no particular order, are some of those super flaws. Superman the movie is credited with having one of the subtler examples of product placement in modern Hollywood cinema when Martha Kent places a Cheerios box on her breakfast table before seeing young Clark in the distance. Although this scene does feature a continuity-breaking rotating cereal box, that's nothing compared to the overabundance of product placement in the sequels, which would include Adidas athletic wear and Pepsi gym bags, Marlboro cigarettes, Coca-Cola, a lot of Coke, everywhere, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, which makes a fry boasting appearance in Superman 2, and then emerges in 3 as a quasi-running gag. Richard Pryor's Gus Gorman dresses like Colonel Sanders, repeatedly walks by a door with a KFC bag conveniently hanging on it, and finally delivers an analogy involving the famous secret recipe.
And nobody seems to know the ingredient because it's unknown, right?
Putting aside the chicken for a minute, the Superman movies also contain a number of blink and you'll miss it moments that were inserted to be humorous or clever by the standards of the time, but which now come off as uncomfortable, anachronistic, or otherwise offensive. Examples in the first movie include the appearance of a man who is most likely a pimp as he offers his opinion on Superman's suit.
Hey, Jim! Whoa!
Excuse me.
That's a bad outfit!
Another more jarring instance is hearing Mrs. Brady herself, Florence Henderson, slap her daughter for allegedly telling lies about the flying man outside. Still, witnessing Larry Hagman from I Dream of Jeannie prepare to violate an unconscious woman probably takes the cake. Superman himself gets pretty rapey in number 3, which features one of the most uncomfortable scenes ever released in a major Hollywood film.
You know, it's unusual finding a good-looking girl like you alone like this.
Later, evil Superman has some rough sex with the faux dumb blonde henchwoman Lorelei, and then pretends to not remember her.
I don't know you, lady.
Perhaps the most egregious anachronism is the very 80s idea that computers can do practically anything, which turned out to be a useful device whenever the screenwriters couldn't think of another way to advance the plot. This extends to a satellite's ability to control the weather in Colombia, detect the chemical composition of an obliterated planet millions of light years away, modify department store bills in a way that encourages spousal abuse, change traffic patterns, and enable the sentience of walk signals. Lex Luthor, meanwhile, uses a computer to grow a protoplasm and even knit clothes for his nuclear baby. Finally, the greatest supercomputer ever, able to identify any threat imaginable, is assembled from the equivalent of kindergarten crayon doodles. And let's not forget the era's fashions, which actually speak for themselves. We can't forget those. But sometimes the film's greatest flaws lie in the actions of Superman himself, which occasionally reveal him not as a champion of truth, justice, and the American way, but instead as a super dick. Superman is a dick to the hard-working taxicab drivers of Metropolis, disregarding traffic ordinances and nearly totaling a law-abiding cabbie's vehicle. Superman's a dick to mountains and volcanoes, destroying one and impeding the natural rhythms of the other. Superman's a dick to personal trainers. Superman's a dick to Lois's cooking. And let's be honest, Superman can be worse than just a dick. First, he kills General Zod after taking away Zod's powers, at which point Zod poses no immediate danger. Second, he leaves Lex Luthor in the Arctic to die from starvation or freeze to death. And third, he flies back to the Yukon just so he can exact some vengeance on a trucker. The assault probably leaves permanent physical and mental damage on the poor guy, and the money Clark throws at the restaurant owner really doesn't set things right. That is a dick move, Superman. But whatever you think of Superman's morals, can we all agree that Superman does not have unlimited powers? Flight, super speed, and heat vision apparently weren't enough. So we got the Cellophane S. The ability to make multiple holograms of yourself, literally splitting yourself and your alter ego into 2 independent people, and taking the cake as the best/worst, Superman's ability to rebuild the Great Wall of China using only his mind. And claymation. Appropriately enough, given that his current version will be squaring off against the Bat of Gotham, the Superman of this series was ultimately beset by elements that were, quite simply, batshit crazy. We're talking slapstick, bizarre tonal shifts, god-awful special effects, and ideas so bad you wonder how they were even written in a first draft, let alone filmed. So here we go. Train conductor spontaneously has heart attack for no reason. Superman lifts a giant sheet of ice that doesn't automatically crumble. Terrorists facing imminent death very calmly. Superman has this giant net in space. Super pumped. Humans breathing and not instantly dying in space. Lex Luthor invents a three-dimensional hologram machine in prison. Gus Gorman falls off a skyscraper and doesn't break a bone. Bowling strike sound effects. This bowling strike. This line reading.
Stop! Don't do it! The people!
The inspiration for Office Space. Nuclear nails. Superman's heat vision neglects the fact that oil is flammable. This senile Kryptonian.
Betrayed.
Super Ice Cube. If you get a prize that looks like kryptonite, smells like kryptonite, and feels like kryptonite, it might be sorta kryptonite. This British kid in the middle of Hicksville.
Please let my daddy down.
Alcoholism. Weird anatomical deconstruction. Superman becomes an old dude in the space of a few hours. That actor is clearly not Gene Hackman. These special effects. And these. Oh, and these. Oh boy. And don't forget, this bubble. The sister turned robot thing. This is how it ends. But even with all those super flaws, and there are plenty more for which we simply do not have time, it's not our goal to dismiss or write off the Superman movies. Even though you should probably be playing a drinking game if you're planning to revisit 3 or 4. There are many fans who fondly remember the series, especially the first 2 installments. They view the epic scope, love story, and earnest sense of wonderment as the legacy of the flicks, more so than the aforementioned super flaws. What will be the legacy of the new Man of Steel remains to be seen, and as we've shown today, no Superman movie is perfect. But we like to think, in some alternate universe, this Superman is still flying high up in the sky, faster than a speeding bullet, stronger than a locomotive, able to leap a tall building in a single bound, even though bounding is fairly irrelevant when you can fly. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more videos on Superman, Batman, and the impending dawn of justice right here on Cinefix.